This time, we return to Texas with an important change in strategy. Not the location, but the trap design. The new cage traps were equipped with a one-way door mechanism, allowing wild boars to enter easily, driven by instinct to find food. But once they stepped inside, there was no way back out. A small detail, but one that could make a huge difference.
Boom.
We began installing the trap system early in the morning. Locations were chosen based on the latest signs, trails, freshly rooted ground, and areas where wild boar groups frequently gathered. Each trap was carefully camouflaged to avoid raising suspicion. Once everything was set, we left the area and started monitoring through cameras. Time passed slowly until the first signals appeared. The first trap was triggered late in the afternoon. Through the camera, we could clearly see the wild boars entering without the hesitation we had seen before. One by one, they stepped through the one-way door, unaware that the way out had already been sealed. By the time the trap dropped, the entire group was already contained inside. The next morning, when we arrived, the result matched exactly what the cameras had reported. The process was quick and efficient, closing the first trap with a promising start. The second trap delivered an even clearer demonstration of the new design's effectiveness. Placed near an open feeding ground where wild boars often returned, this trap didn't just hold a few animals, it kept collecting more as they arrived. One by one they stepped in, and none of them came back out. When we checked the trap, the number inside had increased significantly compared to previous designs. By the third trap, everything had nearly been proven. This was a deeper forest location where wild boars usually felt safer, and that sense of security made them completely drop their guard. The camera recorded small groups entering the trap throughout the night. There was no immediate panic. Only until it was too late did they realize there was no way out. When we arrived the next morning, the trap was filled with wild boars inside, a result far beyond previous setups. After completing all trap locations, we looked back at the system. No major changes in positioning, no increase in trap numbers, just a one-way door mechanism, and it completely changed the outcome. And clearly, in this kind of confrontation, sometimes the difference lies in the smallest details. The final trap presented a completely different situation compared to the earlier ones. When we arrived, inside the cage was a mother wild boar with piglets. A seemingly complete result, but an issue immediately became clear. The mesh gaps were too large. The young boars began slipping through the openings and escaping. The situation quickly turned chaotic, but fortunately, we were prepared. Hunting dogs were released immediately, chasing down each of the escaping piglets. Thanks to their speed and tracking ability, they quickly managed to regain control of the situation. In a short time, order was restored. One by one, the animals were gathered and loaded onto the truck. By the time everything was over, the entire group, from the mother to the piglets, had been fully secured. We left the area as night began to fall, closing the entire operation in Texas. A sweep filled with unexpected situations, but also a clear demonstration of the effectiveness of a new trap system. And this time, we returned with a complete victory.
When the city falls asleep, another world begins to move. Under the dim glow of streetlights, herds of wild boars emerge. They quietly cross the streets, pushing deeper into residential areas. They tear up gardens, search for food, and roam freely through places once considered safe human spaces. Videos recorded by residents reveal a troubling shift. Wild boars no longer stop at the forest edge. They now appear on city streets, inside neighborhoods, even right in front of people's homes. When the boundary between urban life and wildlife becomes blurred, the issue is no longer just property damage. It becomes a matter of human safety. When wild animals lose their fear of humans, risk begins to grow exponentially. This is not just a story about wild boars. These images raise a much larger question. How are we managing the shared space between humans and nature? And how can we protect our way of life while still preserving the balance of the natural world? Follow us as we continue this challenging journey. From before dawn, Martin, one of the most respected wild boar hunters in the region, was already at the trap site he had set days earlier. More than just a skilled marksman, Martin is known in the local community as a pioneer in using smart trapping systems to control wildlife safely and responsibly. Today's mission posed a serious challenge, a highly alert sounder of wild boar, and the team's responsibility was not to injure them, but to guide them back toward the forest without harm. The core strategy was pre-baiting, allowing the boar to become familiar with the trap site before any activation. The team used fermented corn and sweet bait, since wild boar find almost impossible to resist. Over several days, the entire sounder grew accustomed to the location and the food source, significantly increasing trap effectiveness while minimizing stress and panic. When the trap is finally triggered, the likelihood of capturing the entire group at once, rather than scattering individuals, makes the operation safer, faster, and far more efficient. Effective control does not come from haste, but from staying one step ahead. Martin uses Boar Buster, a modern trapping system designed specifically for wild boar and now widely deployed across the United States. Unlike traditional methods, Boar Buster allows an entire sounder to be controlled with a single activation, minimizing panic and greatly reducing the risk of boars scattering into nearby residential areas. For Martin, operating a trap is never just a technical procedure. Each activation is a responsible decision, tied directly to maintaining ecological order and protecting the everyday safety of the community. Before triggering the system, Martin carefully checks every factor: the trap's placement, the direction from which the boar approach, and the most appropriate moment to activate. Thanks to the pre-baiting process, allowing the boar to become familiar with the trap site over several days, when the entire sounder arrives, the system can be triggered with precision, keeping stress and unnecessary risk to an absolute minimum. Once the boar are securely contained, the team relocates them to a legally designated management area, ensuring the operation remains safe, controlled, and does not disrupt nearby residents. This is where technology, field experience, and patience converge. No rushed reactions, no loss of control, only proactive intervention to prevent damage, protect the community, and preserve balance within the local ecosystem.
Let's go, hip. Let's go, hip, hip. Get in there, hip, hip. Hip, 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 hip. Yeah, we gotta screw that to the bottom.
The operation didn't just bring wild boar under control, it restored peace of mind to families and the wider community. In a world where wildlife is increasingly encroaching on residential areas, smart, humane, and properly licensed solutions are the path towards sustainable management. Wildlife management is not a battle between humans and nature. It is how modern society brings together science, law, and responsibility to protect both communities and ecosystems.
Early in the morning at a livestock area located along the edge of forest in Arizona, I arrived after receiving repeated reports about wild boars causing destruction. They were digging up the ground, damaging livestock areas, and continuously pushing deeper into the ranch. Creating increasingly serious damage within a short period of time. I specialize in handling and controlling invasive wild boar herds. And this time, the mission was no longer as simple as before. The signs they left behind showed that they were no longer moving alone, but appearing in large groups. So what if the entire herd entered a trap at the same time? Was there a way to control them all in a single operation? That was exactly why I had to use large steel cage traps. Starting today, the first trap was triggered during the night. When I returned the next morning, an entire herd of wild boars had already been captured inside, packed tightly together and reacting violently in a confined space. There was no time to wait, so we immediately moved in to begin the collection process. But just as everything seemed under control, an unexpected incident happened. Through a small gap in the fence, one wild boar suddenly escaped. It charged away at incredible speed, completely disrupting the original operation and forcing us to react immediately. But after that sudden situation, everything was quickly brought back under control. We tightened the process, handled every step more carefully to avoid further mistakes, and the escaped boar did not get very far before it was restrained. In the end, the entire herd was still loaded onto the transport cages on the truck, fully under control. A situation that seemed like it could spiral without plan, but was handled in time. Another trap was also triggered during the night. Watching through the camera, I was genuinely shocked by the number of wild boars arriving. They walked into the trap one after another with almost no hesitation. By the time the gate slammed shut, the entire herd had been trapped inside, creating a scene far beyond expectations. Without waiting until morning, we immediately headed to the trap location during the night. Under the lights, the wild boars were still packed together and reacting violently inside. We quickly began collecting them, working in close coordination to load each one onto the truck and regain control before the situation became even more unpredictable. The third trap was placed in the middle of an open area inside the ranch, a location that did not seem ideal because it lacked cover. But the result turned out to be completely the opposite. When we checked it, an entire crowded herd of wild boars had already been trapped inside, packed tightly together and moving chaotically through the large enclosure. Without hesitation, we immediately moved in, under the harsh sunlight across the open range. The wild boars reacted aggressively as soon as they saw people approaching. But this time, everything was already under control. We quickly began the collection process, coordinating closely to remove the entire herd decisively. The fourth trap was placed directly in a potato field, the area suffering the worst damage. When we checked it, dozens of wild boars had already been trapped inside after arriving overnight in the field. Without wasting time, we rushed in immediately. Facing the violent reactions of the herd, the entire team worked together quickly, handling every step decisively to collect them all, load them onto the truck, and completely regain control of the situation.